Welcome to the How I Started Career Stories podcast, where we will interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, and company leaders to hear how they got to where they are on their career journey. We'll talk about the early days, the setbacks, the risks they took, and ultimately how they're using their learnings now and into the future. I'm Andrew Kappel, your host. Let's get started with this week's episode. All right, welcome to another episode of How I Started. Well, we talk to CEOs, entrepreneurs, and executives on their career journey to date, how they got started, some of the challenges that they've faced, and then what they're focused on and excited about in the future. So without further ado, Matt Bolian, epic story, epic background, and he's prolific on LinkedIn, and he's been doing some cool things. So I don't want to steal the thunder, but Matt, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and then take us back to the early days?
Andrew, thank you for being here. Epic's a bit strong, but I'll take it.
Hey, that Park City music video, right? You have to be able to stand out. So,
yeah, I do like to make music videos. I don't call it and dance.
Prolific.
Yeah. Back to the early days, man. I probably have a bit of a different. I mean, there are people that start in the military, but probably it's rare, specific in the ecosystem I'm sitting in. And so I don't do anything with DoD. I don't do anything with federal governments. I do things with HubSpot agencies and sales and marketing. So I went to West Point, for better or worse. If you know what that is a they call it a leadership development academy. Then you go and you're an officer in the military. It's more like you do things like you don't talk outside of your room for an entire year. You can't you can't like eat. You have to eat. You have to like the way you eat. You have to. It is orchestrated and ordained hazing is what it is. In a good way. Like so, it teaches you to be at the bottom, understand what it's like to have a lot of pain, and go through it and be in the military. As an officer and do a lot of stress. So one of the big things they teach that I think makes people in these military academies ends up being that translates well into the business world is they force you to fail. And so in the academy, it's like all about forcing you to fail over and over again. Either putting you there is no comfortable situation. You're only put in uncomfortable situations. And so example would be the entire time you're there, you have to have your room clean, and you have to have your bed made, and you have to be up at if you're going to work 5:30 for the entire time you're there. It's just all around uncomfortable. I got 4 hours of sleep my entire time I was there.
Wow.
So it's just uncomfortable, and you're giving too much. You're giving too much homework that you can't possibly do it. You're giving too many, and you have to choose. This is the thing. You have to choose, and you have to learn how to prioritize what's most important and let everything else fail. You have to be ruthless about that, and I think that's coming out. And you get into business, it equates very well. There's always too many things to do, and so you have to focus on a few and just tenaciously execute.
Yep. So after you graduated from USMA, where'd you wind up, and then what was the transition like?
So I got a scholarship out of West Point to go study regional. By the way, all my degree, I do nothing with any of them, right? So there is Latin American history, comparative politics, and this other one, it's called regional urban economics, or how cities work. And so I went there for a year, a little bit longer than a year. Then I went to military intelligence. So I was a military intelligence officer and went to Fort Huachuca in Arizona and studied to be how to do pattern analysis and trends. And I was something called an all-source intelligence officer. So we'd lead a cell of people that take in a butt ton of information, digest it, and then produce predictions on what you think is going to happen based on the information you have. So spent a lot of time learning about patterns and analysis and briefings. And then I went to my first role was a military intelligence officer in Colorado Springs or Fort Carson.
Cool. And so It sounds pretty relevant. What the types of stuff that you were, both in school and then out of school, pattern recognition and seeing the trends, and everyone's drowning in data nowadays, but don't have the insights or the ability to take action on the data. So, are you, as you look back on it, are you using some of the things you learned nowadays?
Probably. So it's so many. I mean, you have different technology. Like, a lot of it, and you say it's a lot of the military intelligence was actually learning to be AI. If you were to put it in different ways, and I
Right.
just like put it in the best. Like, trying to put it away is like you. If you see enough patterns often enough, you can start to. It becomes nascent. It just becomes a part of who you are.
Right.
And so when I was teaching, because we had to go and we had to teach these and give briefings, and you sometimes have to teach your cell how to think about patterns, and military intelligence actually has one of the highest PTSD rates in the military. And the reason is you're never you have to make these predictions about where this path has it or does not have an ID based on all this information, and sometimes you're sending people to their death, and you have to there's a lot of weight and burden that goes into it, and the work never stops because it's not physical, it's mental. And so
Right.
So anyway, so you're thinking about this, and they say it, there's an intuition that's developed, and it's also the role that gets fired the most often, because there's something either develop that intuition or you don't. You're either really good or you're really bad. Like, there's
Wow.
it's hard to get it. So there's a lot of practices they teach you. So a lot of looking at a map, a lot of giving you information, a lot of you do a lot of these tactics on how you understand where people go, and you do mock scenarios, and just over and over again of you being wrong until you start to just intuit different portions that are happening. And so over time you build that muscle, and then they add more and more variables. And so it's how many variables can you handle? So I said LMA, I said becoming it's that is a little bit of it, asking the right questions at the right time for the right reasons based on the information you have, and being very okay with ambiguity,
Right.
and having certainty about things you don't have certainty about.
Yeah. You're going to have a lot of information, but you're never going to have perfect information
Yeah.
or all the information.
So, one of the tactics I would take is they have this idea of, they call them courses of actions. And you have and it sounds a whole lot like forecasting, which is commit, most likely, best case.
Yeah.
But you go, what's my most likely course of action? Meaning, what is the enemy? And you do it from the enemy's perspective, not your perspective. You don't
Right.
plan, you play the enemy. What's the most likely course of action for the enemy?
Yeah.
What's the least likely course of action of the enemy? And what's the most dangerous course of action for the enemy? And you do those three things over and over again, and you either get it wrong or you get it right. So you play it out, and it's okay, here's what happened. Play it out, okay, here's what happened.
Interesting. It sounds like you can apply that to sales, to running deals, and to the art of war as a sales book. So
Yes, Art of War is a sales book. So in Colorado Springs and Fort Carson, I was something called the 2nd Infantry, or 4th ID is what it's called. There I was in an infantry brigade, and we went to Kuwait. That was when ISIS invaded Iraq. So we were in Kuwait as the rapid response force. So there's a lot that happened in that portion. So we were responsible for if anybody needed to be taken out, we needed a quick response, which occurred right during that time. And then I over time ended up being the something called a company commander, which is you have you have 250 plus people that are working, and you the logistics and the head, and I was spent some time in Germany, where we were the Russian deterrence force, specifically making sure they didn't invade Ukraine, which did not happen when I was there.
Right,
Happened
for the record.
it happened post me. So I was a deterrent force.
Yeah.
We did a lot of exercises, just a lot of logistics across Eastern Europe. That'd be Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and working with a lot of multinational, different army forces going back and forth and doing
Wow.
exercises.
And so how long was your tenure in the
I was out
Army?
here for about 6.5 years.
Wow. And so that's a little bit longer than required, right?
Yeah, you're required to be there 5.
Yeah.
I did scholarships. They added another year in. And because I went, I mean, I did go there for free, right? They paid for my housing, so
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I got the scholarship to pay, but I got paid a full salary from the
Yeah.
military when I was there.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
and it sounds like the transition, was going to go pretty well to the bigger business side with, hundreds of people, organizations, and logistics. So that's where you started, right?
Yeah, I went to like every good, and this is, I think we do a really bad job of this. And as much as not experiencing this, transitioning from military into what we call private sector, into the private world, or civilian world, as we could say then, is, I don't know, you lose all your, you come off very hard, you come off with not very much personality. And that was also me. Like it was you're cookie cutter, you're made to be replaceable and move from one place to the next, and have your military demeanor. And so I really wanted to go work. And you think about this, what does that naturally translate? At project manager, whatever. I really want to go work at one of the big tech companies. I want to get into tech. And the word tech in your military, I had no concept of the SaaS world. Right. Is Apple, Google,
Facebook,
AWS, like these big giant corporations. And so Facebook's another one. A lot of, you get slotted in, or like FedEx, or like all these places you get put into. And you're always almost hired as like as a project manager or a program manager, because that's what you come out being able to do well. I got into this program, and by accident almost, that because when you go to the military, you have this 3-week transition, or 3 months transition that you can do. And I got accepted in this program that said service to sales. And it helped me learn to do SaaS sales, specifically MSP, managed service providers, in the Cisco ecosystem, which is like hardware and this idea of VARs. So we got into that, and I, through that, got a few opportunities that were outside these big AWS, Google, Cloud, AWS, that were selling for smaller organizations. But one of them is I'm from Mississippi, and through that I got a job through the largest tech company in Mississippi called Spire. And that's where I landed. Interesting story. I went there for the sales job and doing cloud sales. And the president of that company was a Naval Academy grad from Australia.
Interesting.
Yeah, weird. So he heard about that I was there, and he wanted to talk to me. And he said, "Matt, do you want this job?" And I said, "No. I came here because my family's here and I got a free ticket. So thank you very much." It was but this job, a bunch of red flags are going up. I don't think it's set up right. Like, I think this would be a place where I'd be set up to fail, and I don't want to fail. And he goes, "Well, what job would you want?" I said, "Well, I want to be chief of staff." And he's like, "Well, how much you want to make?" So I'm going to make, X amount. And 2 hours later I had a job offer as chief of staff for that. That is what put me into revenue operations. So I got thrown into from him, the chief of staff. He just threw me at problems. And one of the problems we had is we had to do a channel. And he's like, "Hey, Matt, go be the operations arm of this channel." I don't even know what channel means, by the way. No clue what channel means.
Yeah. You're like TV channels,
Yeah. He's like, and he goes, "Throw it." And I'm going to have, they took one of their top sales reps and said, "Hey, I want you two to go set up this channel." And that's when I had to set up this Salesforce instance and get it all working. And I was the person managing. I was the account manager. He'd go out and do it. And I would be the person who would sell with my channels, all these deals, just going through. So I stood that up, operationalized it. Then I handed it off. And he said, "Okay, Matt, next thing, we're about to do a merger and acquisition, and we're going to acquire a MSP." Which is something called tech. I forget what they're called now. Anyway, they were some $20 million, $25 million business, 200 plus people. We acquired them, and my job was to make sure all the revenue systems were working. So this is my first time. I didn't know revenue systems. That's great. What does that mean? So that's when I learned about ERPs and quote for the first time ever. And that sounds crazy. The first time I ever heard quote to cash.
Yeah.
And they just broke. So they had ConnectWise. I didn't know what ConnectWise was. They had HubSpot I didn't know what that was. They used it from we ran our website out. I was like, I don't know what any of these things are.
Yeah.
And so we had to go through them, do the full line. And part of my objective was to pick the best systems and put them under one roof. And that's what I was doing. And it was kind of just thrown into it as a chief of staff type role, managing the entire process.
Okay. And so how long were you in that service to sales role? Did you not even get your feet under you and you got plucked and dropped into the chief of staff special projects?
I was put into things to just start things. So I did channel, and they're like, okay, Matt, you're good at that.
Okay.
Start our RFP division.
Yeah. And from your time in the military, from your time in the Army, there's a saying, do it, document it, delegate it. Like, it sounds like you were pretty good at building something and then building yourself out of it, which like some people naturally want to keep control or keep ownership because then it's their job position, their seniority, sometimes their ego. But it sounds like you were good with getting in there, getting it built, and then going on to the next thing, which is, I think it's a cheat code for people that want to work at startups or, ascend in big companies. Is like, once you're good at solving problems, then, that really helps your reputation. So that's just something you naturally did and that's how it worked, or did you have to learn that the hard way?
I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
Andrew. I can say I don't think things are learned naturally, which is a side note. And I'm a big believer in the idea of becoming.
Yeah.
If you ever read this book called The Talent Code or Talent is Overrated, there's a few of these ideas, which is nature has a lot more to do with who we become than nurture has a lot more to do with become than nature. Mm-hmm. And that's why there's a 5'7" person in NBA basketball right now, like on NBA. Like nurture matters. I mean, nature matters, but nurture is so freaking much more important. Nice. So if you ask me, how did I become that? It's an agglomeration of effort over time in a specific direction. And can I tell you where it came from? No, but I can say, is it by accident? No. There's a lot of intentionality, a lot of like book reading, a lot of like being very specific about things to do it. So like I spent a lot of time learning this specific thing, the skill of learning skills.
Right.
I spent a lot of time on that idea, and probably too much time. Probably addicted to it, led to like bad outcomes in my life that I had to like get over. Yeah. I was addicted to this idea of learning skills.
Yeah. Well, hey, you've progressed and you're doing other things now, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But so you were focused on all of these different systems and getting access to all these jobs to be done that you had to quickly get up to speed. You mentioned a few SaaS revenue systems. We won't spend much time on most of them, but you did say HubSpot, and you have a background with HubSpot. So like, how did that get going? And if you want to talk about what you started as a startup.
From Spire, the president of that company asked me to move to where he was going, which is he was CEO of this other company that a PE firm had brought him to the CEO. He asked me to be director of business operations, which again didn't know what that meant. What that really meant was I was running all the cash, anything that do with the ERP and the CRM, and that CRM there was Microsoft Dynamics, which I did not know anything about. And I loved it so much more than Salesforce.
Yeah, I do too.
I could code it myself. I could make it look like myself. And I felt like I had my playground. And I had a team of reps. So this is a very important part of this journey because it ended up me starting my own like revenue operations consultancy, this whole firm. Okay. So I was doing revenue operations. COVID, this is during like we hit COVID hits. Almost right before COVID hits. This was not COVID. Right before COVID hits, the CEO left. He goes to Dish Wireless. This is when Dish became the fourth carrier. They're still the fourth carrier because of the Sprint being bought by T-Mobile. So he was going to Dish. He asked me to come with him. I said no. I don't want to move my family anymore. And so I ended up staying. Everybody he brought got fired, except me.
Jeez.
Except me. So one of my best friends, who's also a West Point grad that was there, he was running like the ERP systems. Everybody got fired. And I was sitting, this is my first civilian, this is my first what the heck, like my first corporate, like we're all just numbers ideas.
Yeah.
Where you think you have control and you have absolutely no control. I'm like, what just happened? And they hit me as I was sitting here is they didn't fire me. And it's not because these other people are better than me at their jobs. It It was because I'm doing like there's something very special about the action I'm doing about this like connecting the ERP and these revenue systems that I don't fully understand. Nobody like, and I think
black
there's
box.
a business here. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, there's like they could pay me. They're paying me too much money. I should have been cut. Like not only was it like I was one of the more expensive headcounts. They didn't get rid of me.
Right.
I was like, I can do this. So this idea of, and when I was the MSP channel, I was like, they're making so much money, and I'm helping them just make money. All they're doing is reselling. So this idea, like, what if I just, okay, so I went out. I was like, what if I did routes as a service? Before routes as a service was a thing. Like, not that we coined it, but maybe. So we went out and started. I met a guy named Brendan Tolson, and we started an agency. And my idea was, okay, I'm gonna do everything for them. And I don't know what CRM, I really don't care. But it just be easy. And you know where we started? We started on Active Campaign. Because we wanted to build everything in ourselves. We wanted to be like, you just pay us one cost, we'll manage everything. And then one of our clients, our clients had everything from Zoho to Pipedrive to whatever. One of our clients had HubSpot. And in my act of removing them off HubSpot, I was like, I fell in love. I was like, this is the best CRM I've ever used in my life. That was really because I've been in all of them. I said, not because it was the best, not because it was the most functional and had the most capacity. I mean, I was in Dynamics where I could do anything I wanted. I was in Salesforce, I could do anything I wanted. It just wasn't. It just people used it. I don't know how to put it. Like, people actually used the thing. I don't know how to put it. So I started to say, okay, Brendan, what if we standardize on HubSpot? And we get all in on HubSpot. But I'm telling you, I'm telling you, right? And we both thought, he comes from Salesforce. We both thought, there's no way HubSpot's garbage. Like HubSpot was a marketing department.
Yeah.
Marketing.
Jack of all trades, master of none. Right.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it was like, I had no concept of HubSpot, except that in every community I was in, with RevOps Co-op, RevGenius, all of them said, HubSpot is not a CRM. But I looked at that thing and said, "There's an arbitrage opportunity here. They're wrong."
You saw where it was going. Yeah. It's like the public perception wasn't there, but you were like actually using the systems. That's why like markets and stocks, you have to kind of do your own like AI. You have to like use the things for yourselves to make your own point of view.
Yeah. So then we started RevPartners, and that was like in 2022 is when we chose to standardize on HubSpot. We became the fastest growing HubSpot. Fastest growing of revenue and people and tiering that they've ever had.
That's interesting that like this wasn't some premeditated thing. You a little bit stumbled into it. You were doing exploration, you were customer discovery, and and then learning stuff for yourself. So I think the background that you had with the cumbersome legacy CRMs that shall not be named, it's like that gave you the better appreciation to really take off too.
Yeah. Now there's things like Attio. I've never tried Attio. Right? These are like new ones that are coming up that just look like clay to me.
Yeah.
I say clay. They actually look like the company Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't. Period. I'm going to use whatever is best at that given time. So we did RevPartners for about 2 years. We went from. I mean, we did 3.3 million in the first year. I mean, we had SaaS-like growth, and we treated it like a SaaS company. So I was not an agency owner that didn't know business. I knew how to run a business and how to create people. And I didn't know how to do agency delivery.
Yeah.
Which is a bit different. So I probably applied it different. And so we ran it like a SaaS company and had SaaS-like growth. Subscription. I was like, hey, I don't want hours. We never did hours.
Yeah, outcomes. Yeah, here's the job to be done.
We just didn't have any of this baggage.
Yeah.
So it was like, hey, if I was running a company, here's how I'd freaking run the company.
Yeah.
That's how we ran it. So in 2 years, we were about 6.5 million in AAR and 50 to 70, people. And that's what it hit me, is this is really freaking hard. Like running a service company.
Yeah, the service delivery or like the quality of service as you scale is just brutal.
It's brutal. It's so hard. And so that problem became very intriguing. It was the problem I was trying to solve, and it became very intriguing. And I put together what I thought was a pretty cool stack. We started on Coda, which is essentially a Notion competitor.
Yeah, knowledge base.
I highly recommend nobody tries to do anything on Notion or Coda long term. I know people say to do it.
Notion, the scalability, or like you get more than 5 people using it.
Good, and it breaks. Don't do. I've done it.
Yeah.
And I built the entire thing myself thinking I was amazing, and I was not. Maybe you're better than me. You
Yeah.
can do it. It's good. It's really good for some things. Just be careful.
Yeah.
But then we created this cool thing. I was like, ClickUp was right when it was starting. We standardized on ClickUp. We standardized and created this. How do I create the best experiences? Because what you do,
Yeah,
as
it's
a
the
service
experience, the surprise and delight, and like what's it like to be a partner or a customer of yours?
Exactly, and you can be fast, cheap, or good. You need to pick one of them.
Pick two. Yeah.
Well, you pick one: fast, cheap, or good, and then hopefully you become one of the others.
Yeah.
And we picked good, right? And so because let's do experiences, and no matter how I tried, I could not get the experience right. And that's where Supered was birthed from. Is okay. What would it look like to not because service companies scale based on there's always this capacity issue. You have to hire another head, and what if you increase capacity per head? You actually be tech enabled. You have higher margin. The life of an agency owner is like low margin until you get guys. Y'all have to get to 5 million to 10. Like you have to get to 5 million before you any margin in your life. I've just been there, done it. I'm telling you, you have to get to 5 million before you get any margin in your life, and it's hard. SaaS is hard too, but I got margin. I'm at 2.5 million AR over here. So I was like, there's just a different play to it. So I went out to say, what would it look like to create the next generation of service companies
Right.
that didn't scale just on headcount?
Right. And that's what you're solving you're solving your own pain points that you had, and so you've been working on Supered for about 2 years now.
2 years. Yep. And we got to $1 million in 7 months and $2 million in 1.7 or 1.8 months. So we're still fast.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting there trying to solve this problem. We're specifically thinking in the HubSpot. So I know HubSpot partners, but we're starting to expand outside. And this is not a mission just for HubSpot partners. This is for everyone. And
Service
we're
delivery.
starting to have specifically I call sales ops. Like we're solving sales ops problems.
Yeah.
And so we have giant end users coming now as well.
That's very cool. So, near short term, what are you most excited about? What's the problem that you're excited to tackle here in the beginning of 25? And then longer term, what's the vision? What are you excited about for the 3 and 5 year plan with Supered?
Yeah, short term is we have this idea. We're creating the next generation. We say we're creating the next generation of elite HubSpot partners. And I'm most excited about. So I love our business model, and I think all these other partner companies. Like I see partner program. I've ran a partner program. This is a difference. Like I've done it. I've been the person. I've experienced partner programs from HubSpot, like being in the HubSpot partner program. And I was like, I don't like them. I've tried it once. Don't want to do it that way again. HubSpot partner. So I like this model. Like our customers are our partners.
Right.
And it's really hard to say we build for partners. Nobody builds for partners.
Right.
We build for partners.
Yeah.
And the word partners is not HubSpot partner. We build for partners.
Right.
And then they distribute what we sell. And it's so just by being good at your job, you create reoccurring income for yourself. Like what if just using being good and creating experiences allowed you to generate even more revenue? It's like that's what we do for partners.
It's kind of like a modern life MLM, but in a good way, right?
Yeah. It's like DocuSign. It's like taking DocuSign.
Oh, do you want this for yourself? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
viral
did
loop.
you experience that? It's more like that instead of just being end user customer. Because every customer there was essentially a partner. They just didn't pay anybody for it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Taking the DocuSign model and just making it a bit bigger and thinking a bit bigger. So I'm most excited about we're staying that up and we're seeing robust amount of sell through and we're getting partner. We're starting to create certifications and we're just picking up. So I'm excited about that now. 3 to 5 years, we're going end user and we'll be talking about end users a bit more. And we're going to be a $100 million company. That's our intent. We're not going to be $100 million through partners. Partners are never the end goal. They are just the method.
It's the service delivery, like the phase where you're at to get off the ground, the adoption, like the early adopter. Yeah.
Yes. We've slowed ourselves down focusing on partners.
Right.
We've slowed ourselves down focusing on partners. And we are like, when we go end users, it's going to be really fun. Side note, all this is I just like big hard problems. What I'm most excited about is doing that all bootstrapped and never taking VC money. Just I've been a part of PEs. I've seen them just cut people's heads off. Like we will get money. We will have to fund. How can we do it in a way where I can pay people a lot of money and we can all win together and just have a crew of people?
Yeah, it's a hard problem. It's a noble challenge, and it's it's long term.
And I may be defeated, so we'll see.
Hey, that's it's admirable what you're doing. Sorry for the naval reference, but Matt, appreciate you coming on. And where would we point folks who are interested in or have some of the challenges and are interested in seeing what you're building and how it might be able to help?
I spend most of my time on LinkedIn, where I spend a lot of these thoughts, and what I'm currently thinking about is there to be the best place. You can DM me. The other is supered.io. That is super and then ed, the past tense of supered.
Supered. All right, we'll put that in the show notes. And thanks again, Matt, for coming on. And appreciate it. Exciting things ahead.
Appreciate it. Everybody stay awesome. Keep it big.
Later on. Bye.
Adios.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and also share it out on LinkedIn or with friends, colleagues, or classmates who might like the show as well. You can also get the newsletter at leaderlev.com/podcast. You can find that also in the show notes.